All right, so in section 8.3 here, we're going to introduce probability. And to start with, we need to talk about sample space. And the sample space is any possible thing that we could have happen. So I'm going to start with our first example here. So flipping a coin 3 times, or you can think about it as flipping 3 coins. It doesn't matter. But for each coin, there are 2 options, heads and tails. So I could have all heads. I'm going to write it as HHH instead of writing out the words heads. So that's a head on all the coins. I could have a head on 2 of the coins. So for instance, heads, heads, tails. But order does matter. So I also could have 2 heads and a tail in these other ways as well. So those are 2 heads. I could have 1 head. And again, the order matters, so I don't know where that head would be. Or I could have no heads, and that would be all tails. So that is my complete sample space. That is all 8 possibilities. I know we haven't talked about this yet. It comes up later in exam 3, but I'll go ahead and mention it now. I know there are 8 possibilities because for each coin I flip, there are 2 choices. So there are 2 choices for the first coin, 2 choices for the second coin, and 2 choices for the third coin. So there are 8 total choices. So that's a quick way I know that I have all of those listed. Now I'm going to use that sample space to help me find the probability. And the probability is going to be this fraction we have right here. The number of good things, that's a numerator, over the total, that's the number I'm going to get for my sample space. And just to make sure, for all of these, we're going to leave them in a reduced fraction unless we say otherwise. So you're not going to see me using decimals or anything like that unless I'm told in the directions. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. So coming down to look at the rest of this example 1, the probability of flipping all tails. There's only 1 of these that is all tails. So that is 1 good thing over a total of 8 possibilities. The probability of flipping exactly 2 tails. So I've got 1, 2, 3 of those. So there's 3 options over 8 total. And then last, the probability of flipping at least 2 tails. At least means 2 tails or 3 tails. They would all be good numbers. So that is all 4 of those. All 4 of those have at least 2 tails. So that would give me 4 eighths, which I can then reduce down to 1/2. And remember, your calculator will reduce these fractions for you, and I'll be happy to show you how to do that in class if you're not sure. We're going to practice this again with a different example here. So on this one, we've got 3 brands of cell phones, Apple, Motorola, and Samsung, and each of the phones either comes with insurance or not insurance. So I'm going to list out my sample space. For my sample space, I'm going to have each cell phone and whether they have insurance or not. So I'll have Apple with insurance and then Apple with no insurance. I can then have the Motorola with the insurance and the Motorola with no insurance. And then last, I could have Samsung with insurance and Samsung with no insurance. So my sample space for this one, I had 3 types of cell phones and 2 choices for insurance. So I should have 6 items in my sample space, and I do. So what I want you guys to do real quick, and really do it, pause the video and see if you can do examples B, C, and D. Then when you've got those down, unpause it, and we'll go over them. And really do it. Really do pause the video now. All right, hopefully you really did pause the video, like I asked. So for this first one, the probability that Randy picks an Apple phone, there are 2 Apple phones out of 6 total. So that's a probability of 1/3, because we always want to reduce our answer down into the simplified fraction. The probability that Randy picks a phone with no insurance. So no insurance, I've got 1, 2, 3. 3 out of 6 reduces to 1/2. And some people would just automatically know that that's 1/2, and that's fine too, because half of them had insurance and half did not. And the probability that Randy picks anything but a Motorola. Well, it's a little bit trickier. Anything but a Motorola means we want an Apple, that would be good, and a Samsung would also be good. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 6 reduces down to 2/3 for my final answer. All right, let's look at one more of these sample space examples. So let's look at example 3. I want you to try this one all the way out. Just think about a regular dice, like you're playing a board game, maybe when you're back in a kid. See if you can list out the sample space and then find those probabilities. And I'll go ahead and tell you, this P right here is a fancy way for saying the word probability of rolling a 3. So again, pause the video, and then when you think you have this down, unpause and I'll go over them. Just like if we were in class, when I'm walking around helping everybody. All right, so the sample space would be all the numbers that are on a dice. And those are the numbers 1 through 6. Those are on our regular dice. So the probability of rolling a 3, there's only one of those, and there's 6 total numbers. So that's 1/6. The probability of rolling an even number, the even numbers are 2, 4, and 6. So there are 3 even numbers and 6 total numbers. So that reduces down to 1/2.